Now pay attention, 007. I've always tried to teach you two things. First, never let them see you bleed.
And the second?
Always have an escape plan.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's Christopher Morales, That One Bond Guy, and we're doing another episode of That One Bond Guy Meets. I know, it's been a minute, but I'm super excited to show you guys somebody in the community that has been blowing it out of the water as of late. His name's Lorenzo. He's from the Instagram account omegabondwatches, and he's just, like I said, been blowing it out of the water with content lately. He's a guru when it comes to Omega and just watches in general. And overall, he's a fantastic friend, somebody you definitely want to get to meet. So make sure at the end of the video, you go give him some love, whether it's on his Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter page. With further ado, let's get into the interview. Good morning, good evening, everybody. I'm Christopher Morales, and I am back. It's been a while since I've done one of these, but I wanted to bring somebody on that I've seen the past couple of weeks doing amazing work. You just got a brand new logo. You can see it in the back there. Look at that. Very nice.
I know. I'm really proud of this.
Oh, yeah.
Caleb over at Commando Bond helped me put this one together. Shout out to him.
Yeah.
And it was something we've been working on for a few weeks and tinkering, and finally debuted it the other day, and we're excited about it.
Oh, yeah. And everybody, with further ado, this is Lorenzo from Omega Bond Watches, basically the guru, the master in our community. All about.
Well,
take it away, my friend.
I'm doing great. Thanks, Chris, for the intro. It's kind of overwhelming to hear that. That's how people are viewing it, but it is an honor, and I'm glad people are reaching out to me and looking for information and content and answers to their questions. So yeah, it's been a wild ride, starting this page up.
Yeah. When did you start the official Instagram account?
So I officially started it about, I think it was just at the beginning of 2018.
Okay.
And when I started it up, it was not a blogging page or anything like that. It was really just for me to put pictures of my watches up for myself. And then every once in a while I'd post, every few months, I'd put some pictures in there. And then last year, when the new watch was kind of getting ready to get announced, I was like, you know what? I'm posting a lot about watches on my personal page. Maybe it's time I really start posting on this page. And then it just started rolling from there.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And man, I stumbled upon your page because I'm a total watch geek. I mean, ever since my story, I started with the Kingsman franchise, fell in love with their watches. Then all of a sudden I got into Bond and Omega, Rolex. I was all over it. And I am so excited to be talking to you today because, like I said, for those who don't know, I mean, he's been collecting Bond watches, Daniel Craig era, more specifically. You have pretty much the whole Daniel Craig era and collection for Omega Bond watches, and it's fantastic to see how you display everything and how you just show your collection. It's super cool, and I'm just kind of curious, and I'm gonna poke your brain a bit this evening.
Of course.
So yeah, my first question is, all right. So what as you were saying, you were just using this to kind of show off your collection. What really motivated you to just branch out and start making those really cool videos and answering people's questions about all the watches and stuff like that?
It was just random. I started posting, and it wasn't till November last year when they made the announcement of the new Bond watch for No Time to Die. And I'd been following it, and I had started posting, some secret shots from, the set of the watch. No one really knew exactly. We all knew it was an Omega, but no one knew the full details. And I mean, I was digging pretty deep to find every little nook and cranny I could about it from people that had actually worked on the set and seen the watch. I knew it was going to be titanium. The face was kind of a mystery. Everyone thought that the arrowhead on the dial was going to be there, and sure enough, it was. The military ties, for Bond. So a lot of what people were assuming were pretty accurate. And it just kind of started this fire inside of me to get out there and do some content. And I know you've said this before, you didn't want to really do what everyone else is doing with your page, where you're covering, just Bond, just the whole shabam. And it's overwhelming sometimes. I don't know how some of the creators do it. It's just so much material to cover. And, I'm impressed by them that they can. I know a lot about the watches, and I haven't seen anyone kind of like grab that one by the horn. So I was like, you know what, this might be a perfect little nook for me to get into. So that's kind of how it came about.
Nice. It definitely has worked out because, I mean, every time you post about something, I get excited because you fully lay out whether it's a specific watch or a group of watches. I mean, you lay out the specs, the details, and I learn something new every single time you post. And one thing I really enjoyed was one of your cleaning videos, because you did talk about how to just quickly refurbish the watch, go over it and all that kind of stuff with water, and then just polish it up with a microfiber towel. And I even implemented that to some of my watches, and it works great. I mean, I never knew I could, use a microfiber towel and it would clean up a watch that nicely. Little things that I absolutely love learning every time you post. And some of my favorite bits are, like, for example, I'm going to show it if you don't mind, the clip where you did the whole like dark, the lighting and the black light over all the watches so you could see the glow. Man, I absolutely love that.
That was kind of are you talking about the video, or are you talking about the video I did?
The video you did.
Oh, that one, honestly, I stumbled upon that video. It was interesting how it came about. I had posted my watch cleaning video, and some people were upset with the amount of water I was using to clean my watch. And the truth is I don't normally clean my watches with that much water. It was more of an exaggeration of me doing it because I'm working around a camera and I have my hands filled doing the cleaning of the watch while having the water running, And so I ended up taking that video down. I'm going to reshoot it because I want to be sensitive to those that don't want to waste water. But it was truly just from me filming. That's why it turned out that way. Normally when I watch it, it's not that entertaining. I just go boom, boom, and I'm done. It's really quick. So that was kind of why that happened. But then I was feeling a little down about that because I took the post down and I was like, I need to recoup around that. And then unfortunately, I don't want to bring it up again, but the Bond convention was that Saturday, and we all know how that ended. And something inside of me told me I need to put something out that's going to, show people that, what, we're going to keep going forward. We're going to keep posting. We're going to keep, bringing out great content. And it just dawned on me. Like, I was literally about to go to bed. I was just going to take one picture, and it turned into this 3.5 hour event of me filming, cutting, editing, and then that was my first video I put out, and it was very raw, very new for me to do, and I was excited with my end product, and it was nice to see the awesome responses and the love I got. So I mean, that's kind of how it came about. It was totally by accident.
Definitely. Well, I thought it was fantastic. It was super cool to see everything glowing and just sparkle like that in the light. I mean, Omega is such a beautiful watch by itself, but when we add the connection with Bond and everything, it just enhances it even more. And everyone has their own story when it comes to getting their first, big piece, whether it's something from a clother or something like a watch or even an Aston Martin. But I'm curious, what was your first Omega story?
So it's funny how this came about because my introduction to Bond, which will kind of tie into this story, was N64 GoldenEye, which everyone my age, in their late 20s, early 30s right now, that I feel like that's a lot of everyone's connection in my age group. It's the GoldenEye. I had no idea Bond was a movie, a franchise, nothing. I just loved the game, and I loved going over to a buddy's house and you'd sit there, this is before online gaming, and you'd sit there and you'd play with each other, like, play the game, and that was my first, exposure to Bond. And then I found out there was a movie. And so, I go see the movie and I'm like, whoa, this is cool. Still no connection to the watch. It wasn't until Tomorrow Never Dies, which was the first Bond movie I actually remember going to Blockbuster when it came out and renting it. Nice. And watching it, and there's scene at the end when he's on the stealth ship he uses the Omega Watch to use this glass breaker, and it just fascinated me with the way the dial lit up to set that device off, and I was hooked. So I remember going to the mall with my parents and wandering into a jewelry store and asking to see the watch, the Bond watch. And to me, I didn't really understand the magnitude of the cost and my age at that time. I'm 12 years old. I don't, to me, it's just a watch. I don't know the difference between $1,000 watch and a $500 watch and a $100 watch. I don't know the difference. I just know it's a lot of money, but that's the James Bond watch. So, of course, like any kid, I asked, can I have it? And my parents looked at me. They're like, we're not buying you an adult piece of jewelry. No way. You will never treat it with respect. And, so that dream kind of fell by the wayside. And I just, I kind of like, I watched the Bond movies. And then as I was getting into college, Daniel Craig was casted, in Casino Royale. And that brought me back to Bond. Like, it was like a little hiatus there from 2002 to 2006. And I remember there was two like big scenes that really grabbed me. And it was the opening scene in black and white. I was just like enamored by that. I was like, wow, this is not the Bond I grew up with. And then it was the Aston Martin when he pulls in to park it after, when he walks up to it and then he like goes to meet Mathis. Seeing that Aston Martin just started this fire inside me to like come back to Bond.
Right.
And so I wasn't 21 yet. And for my 21st birthday, my parents asked me like, what would you like? We want to get you something special. And I said, you know what? I'd really like an Omega watch, laughing about it. And they said, all right, so which one do you want? And I was torn because Quantum of Solace was just about to come out. And the Planet Ocean was announced as the watch Bond was wearing. And I'd always wanted the traditional, Seamaster Professional. So I kind of went back and forth. And then they announced that they were releasing a limited edition. So I didn't know anything in watches at this point. I just knew Omega was Bond's watch. And I knew which ones he was wearing. That's all I knew. So I was like, you know what? I want the limited edition one. It's black. It's sleek. It looks cool. It's still the same model as the one he originally wore, but it's got a twist on it. Hindsight being 2020, I wish I would have asked for the Quantum of Solace watch instead that he wore in the movie. But that's okay. It's my first, and I love it dearly, as a gift from my parents. And so it'll always be in my collection. But yeah, that is the story of my first Omega watch.
That is amazing. I mean, to have that connection, not just with Bond, but with, the family aspect, that makes it even 10 times better. And then I'm assuming that kind of just created the snowball effect of you having the whole Daniel Craig era watch collection now, right? No,
actually, entertainingly enough, I got that watch and I'm like, this is it. I have it. Boom. I don't need any more. This is my Bond watch. I'm going to die with it, and it wasn't until 5 or 6 years later that I finally like ponied up and bought the blue one from Casino Royale. And that was the first time I bought a watch for myself. So it was like, it was a big deal, spending that kind of money, my own earned money to get the watch. And then it became a habit. Once you buy your first one for yourself, I feel like that is like the plunge you're taking, And,
right.
I'm going to quote David Zaritsky from the Bond Experience here. He always talks about how you can step away and have these moments with these pieces that you own. And I can totally relate to that. Every single watch I have and I wear, whether I'm out or I'm just putting it on for the day, I have those moments where I feel that connection to a memory or like, and my dad, he passed last summer, and certain watches make me think about him and the way I felt when he would gift some of them to me, or when I got one, his excitement for me. My dad was never really a huge James Bond fan, but he loved that I was passionate about it. So it was, that connection is there. So I love that about it.
That's beautiful. That's really beautiful. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, man, I could go on for days about how beautiful and how exciting to own one is. I mean, I don't know yet. I will have that soon, one day. And I know exactly who to go to when I need help for it. So
hey, I'm here for you, buddy. Anything you need. I mean, I help people all the time. It's funny. The page I didn't really know that it was going to turn into what it did. I'm sure you've had the same experience with your page. Like, I literally just did it because I'm passionate about the products. And, I get DMs all the time, hey, I'm looking for this. What's your advice? Hey, is this real? Hey, where can I find this? Hey, how do you do this? Like, I get all these random messages, and it's nice to know that people want my advice, and that I'm helping make a difference. So absolutely, when you're ready, I'm here for you, buddy.
Well, thank you so much. And I know we've talked, personally about some of the best ways to go to get a watch. And I know one place that I've got an app for. I created a wish list and set up getting ready for that moment. For those who don't know, it's the Chronos24, the Chronos24 app. Do you mind explaining a little bit for people who may not know or who would be interested in finding an outlet to go and look for these kind of watches?
Yeah, sure. There's actually two sites I want to cover. So the first one I want to cover is obviously the one you just brought up, Chronos24. I think Chronos24, for me, it is the go-to spot for keeping track of what it is you want to purchase in the future. And also another great feature they have is once you have a watch, they actually have a collection part of their app where you can actually store your information about your watch in there, whether it's your serial numbers, the date you bought it, where you bought it from. And I think that's a great tool because you can always access that information. Because sometimes, you need a part for your watch and you're at the store and they're like, hey, what's the serial number? And you're like, oh, I don't know, and then you have it accessible there. But that's one feature I do love about it. And it actually tracks the value of the watch and your collection. So that is another great feature. But as far as buying, on the buying side, I've bought from there, I believe, twice now. And it's a very unique situation because typically the sellers are basically small jewelers or, people that do just online sales. And this is a way for them to get their product out there without using a mainstream site page. It's almost like it's like an eBay, but the way it functions is just a slight difference because of the magnitude of the cost, which I actually do like. So let's say, Chris, you decided you wanted to get a Brazen Era Omega Seamaster Pro. And you're like, okay, I found the one. It's $2,000. So what you'll do is you'll submit an offer for $2,000. Or like you could say like, oh, you know what? I only want to pay 18, and you can request a price. And then the seller will review it, and either they will approve the sale or they'll come back with a counter offer. So let's say you both agree, okay, $2,000, that's the price. So you'll pay right then and there, and it'll be the way the forms of payment they take is credit card or bank transfer. Okay. So what happens is the money leaves your account and it goes into escrow with Chronos24. And Chronos24 then notifies the seller that, okay, someone has decided to purchase this watch. You can go ahead and ship it to this address. And basically what it is they'll ship it 2-day air, and I believe our signature is required when they ship it. And basically once you receive the watch, you look it over, you kind of like make sure no money's been transferred yet, it's still sitting in escrow. So you have, I believe it's 5 to 7 days to review the watch and either reject, you'd have to return it, and you send it back and it's out of your pocket to send it back, or you keep it. Okay. So let's say you get the watch, you're like, great, awesome. The night you get it, you're like, yes, this is the watch, I'm happy with it. So you have to go back onto the page and you just have to confirm delivery and confirm that you're happy with your purchase. So that way it releases the funds to the seller immediately instead of the 5 to 7 days where you just waits and sits there and then the seller gets the money after that, regardless if you respond or not, because that's the window you have to look over the watch and deny or accept the watch. So I like that because you're not just sending money out somewhere. And
it's secure. It's very secure. Yeah.
Yeah. You're not just like, oh, well, I hope a watch shows up, after I just spent thousands of dollars on it, or I hope it's in good shape, like whatever the case may be. So that process for me has been very, very easy and very, non-challenging as far as going in, getting it done in, and I know the next question is going to be is why would I purchase from there instead of an authorized dealer or from Omega directly? And the truth is, some of these timepieces, they're not being produced anymore. Omega doesn't carry them anymore, and to try to find a brand new one, it's impossible. You have to buy secondhand. So that's why I trust this market for it.
Nice. That's very cool. Yeah, I mean, what we've talked about off camera and just us, I mean, you've showed me how to get through the app, navigate through the app. I saw all those features, and I can tell you guys watching that it is a pretty cool. Just to even look, it's fun. It's like a dealership for watches. You can take hours and hours and just go through, and they don't just only have Omegas. They have an array of brands, right?
Yeah, Rolex,
Mhm.
Tudor, like all these other brands, anything you kind of think of is on there.
Nice.
And I do love the fact that you can, if you don't own it, you can still track the cost of the watch on there. So like the value and how it's selling currently. And, it's like a stock market for watches if you want to kind of like break it down. That's how I would compare it to.
Sweet. Yeah. And you said there's another place we could check out as well?
So the other place, I don't know if people know this, but if you actually sign up with Omega and create a My Omega account on their page, you can actually store your collection on there in pieces that you've purchased. And what's great about that is it keeps all the technical data in there. So you select your watch and you can scroll down and click on it and then still have the original information and the price from when you bought it, years ago, which, some of them I forget, what they costed, what they cost back then, it just, because they've increased over time. But I think it's great that you can, with Omega, follow your watches per se, and you can create what wish list. So if you see something you want, you just add it in there.
There you go. There you go. Very cool. Yeah. All right, Lorenzo. So I got to ask you this, and I know it's going to be really hard to choose, but if you could only take one watch out of your collection, what would you go with and why?
Oh, it's funny because I have a friend, his name's Christopher Hoover. He actually does Cocktails and Conversations, is his Instagram page. He recently asked me this question. He's like, all right, man, if your house kitchen's on fire, which one are you taking with you? And, it's a tough decision because I love them all. They're like my children. So it's hard to choose between them. But if I absolutely could only grab one, it would be my Spectre watch. And the reason being because of how much work it took for me to actually get one. Because when it came out, I actually missed the boat on buying one right away. So it sold out, and I had to actually get mine on a secondary market. But thank God I found one that was unworn. It was like one of the last ones I found. And so I took the plunge and I got it. But I was, it was a long 2 years after it came out to finally get one.
Yeah, but it's amazing that you found one that was not even worn once. That,
Yeah, it was very rare.
But now that we're going in No Time to Die, and I know you just recently got the No Time to Die watch, what are your favorite aspects of the new watch? Being that
I'm just in love with this new watch. And, I think when I first heard that was going to be a brown watch, I was a little skeptical. I was like, oh God, am I going to like it? I think everyone was kind of in the same boat, they were like brown, but it was done very tastefully. I think the fact that the titanium is kind of a darker color than the normal steel watches, it blends well with the tropical brown dial. And some of my favorite aspects of it are absolutely the Milanese bracelet that they put on there. To me, it's the best of both worlds. You're getting the weight of what a NATO strap would be, but the durability of a bracelet all in one. So I do love that aspect of the watch. Absolutely. I think it does belong on that bracelet versus the NATO version. I think the NATO is great, but the bracelet really makes the watch, in my opinion. And then I absolutely love the lume on the dial. Like, that's a first for any Bond watch, so that was a nice little surprise. I know a lot of people were upset by it being aluminum over being, liquid metal or ceramic. But the reality is the watch, they're trying to make it as lightweight as possible. And, those other materials are going to add weight to the watch. And going the route of aluminum, yes, it is prone to scratching. But that was the way they were able to get the coloring right, with sandblasting the dial to a tropical brown, and also including the lume on the dial. So there was reasons why that happened.
Very interesting.
So it was more of an aesthetic reason and a function reason. So,
wow, very cool. And I've been doing some research and looking back at my notes. I know there's going to be another watch featured coming up, and I wanted to hear your thoughts on it. It's the Speedmaster Moonwatch. What are your opinions on that?
So a lot of people have said they would like to see Bond wearing a Speedmaster Moonwatch. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those, like, it's one of those opinion things. And for me, it'd have to be a very unique situation where I see Bond and a Speedmaster. I think the Speedmaster Moonwatch is an absolutely gorgeous timepiece, and it lends itself to its purpose and what it's known for, and that is being the first watch on the moon. And I think that's incredible. However, I feel like putting that watch on Bond kind of either takes away from Bond's watch or it takes away from the moon watch. One or the other. I feel like the moon watch is the moon watch. Let's keep it the moon watch. Now, if they want to do a Speedmaster with a special edition for Bond, maybe. But putting the moon watch on Bond, I don't see it happening. I just don't, because they're just so separate. You know, that's like NASA's thing, and the Seamasters are Bond's thing. You know, It's a diving watch. You know, he's a naval commander. So if he goes in space again, a Moonraker 2 type thing, I can see it happening. I just think it's unlikely. I just don't see Omega being willing to take another series that they're well invested into something else with and now attaching that to Bond. Mm-hmm. So I just don't see it happening, personally.
Yeah.
I'm not against it. I just don't see it happening.
Right. I mean, the image of Bond wearing the Seamasters, and it's iconic. I mean, from Brosnan all the way to the end of the Craig era, it's such an iconic look. And I don't know, even my opinion, I think you shouldn't change something that already looks good, right? I mean, you can change it up by keeping it the same type of watch, the same look, but maybe like they did with the new No Time to Die watch, they changed the colors, and it's like you said, it's absolutely beautiful. But
it's a completely different watch.
Right. And so, I don't know. I would have to see a few pictures of him, maybe a couple stills to really, we'll have to see personally. But that's very interesting to see that. And yeah, I mean,
another fun tidbit here is that since James Bond has been wearing an Omega watch, only once have we seen him actually wear a chronograph, and that was the vintage he wore at the end of Spectre, which had a 2-second appearance. Every other watch Bond has worn in his tenure with Omega has been a chronometer. So, very simple dial, very tastefully done. It's supposed to be more, I feel like it's supposed to be more of an elegant piece, but I can understand the argument for Bond to use something that's more functional. I'm totally on board with that. I get it. I think fitting under a wrist, a chronograph's a little chunkier, and a diver, you can kind of slim it down and make it work. So, right. But there's arguments, like you can argue back and forth on this one. This is just my opinion. So I highly doubt we will see him in a Speedmaster, but who knows? Who knows?
Now, kind of some closing questions here. I'm really curious. Are there any watches on your radar that you don't have that you would love to get in your possession?
Are you talking like actual models, or are you talking brands?
Either or. I mean, I'm pretty open. Just kind of curious.
I will say this. I'm a very brand loyal person, and I've been that way my whole life. Typically, I stick with certain brands, and I don't tend to like waver from them. And Omega's one of those brands. However, I do have the inkling to own one Rolex Submariner No Date at some point. It will not be the same version that was worn by Connery or Dalton or Roger Moore, but I think just having that piece would like kind of be nice to give a nod to that era of Bond. I am not a big Rolex guy. It's just not my cup of tea. For some other people it is, and they're wonderful timepieces. I just have that connection with Omega and Bond, and that is why I'm an Omega fan. So that is one I am looking at, is getting a No Date, a black No Date. And then my next Omega, if it's not the vintage that he wore in Spectre, which I'm looking for, and it's not the quartz version of the GoldenEye watch, if I'm purely picking a non-Bond watch, I would say probably the Omega 300 Titanium. I love that watch. Nice. It's basically the Spectre, but in titanium, and it's got a blue face, which is a little different. I've tried it on a few times, and I just love the style of that watch. I think it's very classic, very tastefully done, and I could see myself wearing that outside of, a Bond watch, and if not that, like a moon watch. I want to have that, that connection to Omega with what I would consider their biggest and most successful timepiece, even more than the Bond watch.
Right.
The moon watch is very famous, and so is the Speedmaster line. So I can see the connection there, which, funny enough, I just said Bond would never wear one, in my opinion, but I still think it's a great watch, just not for Bond,
Right.
So, but those are the three that are kind of on my radar right now as far as my next timepieces. Or who knows, Bond 26, the new watch in that movie, or watches, I should say.
So yeah, I mean, darn, I was thinking about this, and I was like, what Bond watch, what Omega? I mean, obviously, I love the Brosnan era because it just has so many cool scenes with all the different gadgets it comes with it. I mean, some of them are super cool, like you were talking about with the grenade going off, and then some of them are just plain silly, but I absolutely love them with the grappling rope.
Yeah, I know it's so ridiculous, but I love it. I love it.
Exactly.
It's Bond, and that's the era. So I can totally understand what you're saying. So I don't know if I was like, so maybe I can like give you like what I would tell any other person that would ask me this question, and that is, so what should if I'm getting a Bond watch, which one should I get? And that it really comes down to two questions. The first question is the easiest one, and that is, well, which one is the one that you like the most? Like, you got to like the thing you're buying. Don't just buy it because, oh, well, James Bond wore it.
Right.
Buy
Exactly.
it because you actually like it. Like, so, I wasn't a fan of the Planet Oceans when I first saw them.
Mm-hmm.
And over time, in my knowledge of watches, I love them now. I think they're really great. And it's a great nod to the past. It was a design that they used earlier for the Seamaster line, and they took a lot of notes out of it, and I love that. And I didn't know that at the time. So the Planet Ocean kind of became like this watch I started really liking.
Nice.
And so if someone were to ask me, oh, what watch should I get first? That's the first thing I would ask them is, okay, well, which one do you like, or you like gravitate towards?
Right.
The second thing is, how much do you want to spend? That's always the secondary thing. If money is not an object, then I'm going to be like, well, the Spectre's probably the one to get, or the No Time to Die watch. I always tell people, if you're going to get one right now and you have the means, go get the one that's out right now. Go get the one that's brand new that you can go buy in a boutique or get from an authorized dealer. Like, get that full experience of getting a brand new one. But if it's more of like, hey, I'm trying to budget, or this is what I'm allotted to spend, then you start kind of getting into what means more to you, and a lot of people like the Brosnan watch. And I've been kind of tracking the trend of the automatic version, which he wore in Tomorrow Never Dies through Die Another Day. And that one has been slowly creeping up in value over the last couple of years, and there is an interest. And I think with this new watch in No Time to Die, it is really helping that vintage version increase in price.
Right.
So
definitely, I've thought about this, and I've narrowed it down, and we've talked, and I know you know this, but that's definitely going to be the first one. I think it's definitely, for me, just such, it just holds a special place, and
that's important.
Right, the emotional connection, along with the Bond connection, along with just knowing that you worked hard to get to that point, and whenever that moment comes, I know I'm going to enjoy it 1,000 times more, because not only does it have those connections pieces, but I've been able to meet wonderful people through it, like yourselves, to help me along the way. So 10 times, sometimes better.
Honestly, for me, I love helping people because I love being a part of the process.
Right.
And I know for me, like when I get a new watch, there's always some sort of story behind it, like obtaining it or like going through it. It's not just like so clean cut, normally, there's an experience, when I buy from a dealer, there's the experience of going in and talking to them and then pulling it out and me trying it on, and then, and then walking out of the store with it. I always remember each time I get one, like what the circumstance was, what the piece was, what made me want the piece, because, yes, they're Bond watches. I get it. But you see them in the movie, and when I wear it on my wrist, it takes me back to scenes from the movie, or it takes me back to how I felt when I was sitting in the theater watching that scene. And it just like there's all this emotion attached to these
Right.
things,
Wore the watch, man. I mean, what could get better than that?
Of course.
But man, one last question I'd love to connect with you with, because you know me, I've been doing these thrifting for Bond episodes, and I have a lot of viewers who really love the thrifting series. I know there's a ton of cool watches out there that will play the part and are just as great as quality. In your opinion, what are some of those watches that you would recommend people, getting that Bond look, but still having the great quality of a good watch?
So it's funny. I haven't really spent too much time looking for a budget Bond, like Omega Double or Doppelganger or whatever you want to call it. But there are some brands out there that I think do a really good job and I wouldn't say your goal shouldn't be to copy an Omega. Your goal is to have a watch that stands out like an Omega, and like the way you dress it up is a huge part of it. You could put a NATO strap on any watch, and it's going to look pretty close to a Spectre watch without the difference of the bezel being, so unique. And I really like, I think Seiko's a good brand to go to and look at. Fossil does some good watches. I think you actually have one.
Yep.
Another brand is Timex. They do some good watches online, and then you can kind of go from there. It depends what range you want to be in as far as cost. But I mean, those are just a couple brands you can kind of start at. Just look at their diving collection. It's not gonna be anything crazy, because honestly, the cost of a watch is determined by the inner workings of the watch, the movement, and then the materials, and then the technology that's involved with creating the watch. And then lastly, if it's attached to a celebrity or 007, like that always increases the value of the watch and the price and how much it's sought after. Honestly, there's like a watch, it does one thing and it tells time most of the time. Like that's its function, and they can all do that. It's just how accurate and how luxurious is the watch you're wearing that's doing it. So, I mean, there are great alternatives out there. For me personally, if I was going to get an alternative, I would make sure that it has a spring bar on it so I can put straps on it, and that, I can change bracelets out, simple stuff. So I can create those other looks, put a rubber strap on it, put a NATO on it, or like maybe go on eBay and find like a budget Bond Milanese bracelet for it. Those are little things you can do, if you're not ready to take the plunge. One thing I'm not a fan of is buying a knockoff. I think that devalues the brands, and it empowers counterfeiters to create these less than perfect, items that aren't a reflection of the craftsmanship or the quality that the actual brand is. And I know for me, when I spend that kind of money on something that's authentic, I don't want someone rolling around with a fake that falls apart and people are seeing that, because to me it damages the name.
Right.
And it's not a good look, if you want the watch, get the watch. If you can't afford the watch, then get something that's a nice alternative that's made by another reliable company. Perfect. But I'm not a fan of the counterfeit stuff.
Definitely, I agree with you on that part. But Lorenzo, man, you have no idea how excited I was to connect with you. Not only because I love watches, I'm a total watch nerd, but your knowledge, you're like an encyclopedia of knowledge, which is fantastic. And the great thing about you, and I know this is on a personal note, you're always open to answer questions. Where can everyone find you? I know you just recently got a couple new social media platforms, right?
Yeah, so this is a new thing for me. I have been doing Instagram for a long time now, personal page, and I just started up the watch page like a little while ago. But this week I started up my Facebook and my Twitter account, and I do have a YouTube page, but it's
still in the works.
It's in the works. There's nothing exciting to see there. So maybe in time I'll get on board with figuring out what to put on there and make it something successful. But for now, it's just this, Facebook and Twitter. So basically on Facebook, it's just gonna kind of be a different platform to show the content I'm already showing on my Instagram page, and that way I can have, like a group behind it. People that want to like comment on a different platform, or maybe there's people that don't use Instagram. I've gotten that a lot. People tell me like, oh, I want to check out your page. Oh, it's on Instagram. Oh, I don't have Instagram. I just do Facebook. So that was kind of the thought behind that. And then the reason I started Twitter was I really wanted to. I'm not a big Twitter person. I'm very Instagram, love Instagram and Facebook. Like I understand it, but Twitter is like a whole different thing. But I love the communication that Twitter puts out there, like, with the polling and the questions, and people like seem to like interact more on Twitter when it comes to commenting. On Instagram, it's mostly like or look at a story and move on. There's not really a lot of back and forth or comments that go flying around in there. And I feel like in Twitter, you get like higher engagement as far as thoughts and all that. So definitely with that page, I'm trying to put out different content that maybe I don't think would be as perfect as I want it for my Instagram page, but it's more of like a raw shot. You might see me in it, or like there's a weird reflection on it. It's more like the things that didn't quite make the cut. That's the kind of stuff I'm going to push onto that page. Or maybe I'm just like out and about and I'm just like, boom, I'm going to throw that on Twitter. So there will be different content on Twitter and different engagement on Twitter. So that's kind of the idea.
Awesome. And are they going to still be under Omega Bond Watches?
So on Facebook, it's Omega Bond Watches. And then on Twitter, it's actually Omega Bond Watch, because they don't allow the handle to be that long. So,
okay.
So there's no ES. Unfortunately, that's how it had to be. So that's okay. But that is the handle for Twitter. So that, I think I have a link right now in my bio on Instagram, but if not, I'll be adding it shortly.
Perfect. And I will definitely be linking everything in the description below, so it's convenient for everyone watching the video. And please, by all means, go give Lorenzo some love. He deserves it for all the hard work he's been doing lately, blowing it out of the water, not just informational-wise, but just crazy awesome graphics he's done with his collection, and it's definitely worth a check out. Lorenzo, my man, thank you so much, man, for hanging out.
No, Chris, thank you, man. This has been, you're the first person who's asked me for an interview, so this was an icebreaker for me, and it's been excellent. I've enjoyed it, and I'm glad that it was with someone who I've connected with already, and I'm really looking forward to like seeing what new content you're gonna have coming out, and hopefully we can collaborate again.
Oh, definitely. We will definitely do that again. And, hopefully as this COVID-19 goes away, we'll be able to even hang out, and whatever events come our way, we'll be able to, I'd love to do kind of like a video together, maybe go collection together, and just having that experience would be fantastic. Be an
awesome,
honor. Be real.
Thanks again for having me on for this interview.
Yeah, thanks for hanging out. And again, everyone, this has been That One Bond Guy Meets Lorenzo from Omega Bond Watches. Give him some love, and thanks for watching. Everyone, take care, and I will see you guys in the next video. See ya.
See ya.